TeaBreak Marketing Podcast, episode number 27. Hi everybody and welcome to the latest TeaBreak Marketing Podcast. I'm your host Paul Monroe, and in this week, well, something a little special for you. I've actually got a guest with me. Yes, a fantastic guy, and he does some awesome stuff. But I thought, how can I present him? And I thought, well, looking at all the small businesses that I deal with, and if you've listened to my podcast, you know that I'm very much an advocate in marketing and driving small businesses forward. And I had a discussion with my guest, and we sort of said, well, he was a writer, and I thought, that's an interesting article, a way to do, how can I bring that into my show? I had a little bit more thought about it, and so I said, yeah, I could probably do that, and we could fit something really, really neat into a little TeaBreak Marketing Podcast. So to be a successful writer, whether or not, as the case may be, because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that aren't, but I know my guest is a successful author. He has several books published, and he will tell you all about them in a few moments. But it comes, the passion of writing comes from deep within inside you, and the desire there is to express and share with others, your gift of creativity. And it can be poetry, it can be a novel, it can be comedy, it could be a business book. Either way, there is creativity in that. And I thought, well, yeah, let's get my guest on here and let's talk about it. So, as I said, I'm happy to be joined this week by filmmaker, scriptwriter even, author, Mike DiCerto from New York City. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. So my first question to you, and I guess what people are listening to, is how did you get started in becoming a writer?
It goes back way back to when I was about 4 years old. I was always interested in telling stories. I was just a highly imaginative child, and I started writing little stories when I was, like I said, 4 or 5 years old. And I think what really got me moving on it was the way my father treated it. He didn't treat it as just a cute little thing that his son was doing. He treated it very seriously. And I remember giving him my first story when I was about 5 years old probably. And he was critiquing it. He actually gave me a serious critique about it. And I think I cried. But he was trying to show me that if you're going to be a writer, do this seriously. So I've been in love with writing ever since. And I started out, I've also had a love with filmmaking. And I know the new Star Wars movie is coming out soon. And I remember as an 11-year-old getting into the theater, I had a sneak, actually the funny story if you have the time, I went to go see Star Wars for the first time with a friend of mine. And the ticket person wouldn't let us in. He said we were too young and we didn't have our parents with us. So the security guard told us to go around the block. He would let us in through the back entrance. So we paid him. He let us into the back entrance, and we walked in during the garbage compactor scene.
All right.
And that was my introduction to Star Wars, and I've been addicted ever since. And that got me also into filmmaking. So I started making little films, and the films got bigger and bigger, and I wound up making a couple of feature films, including one called No Exit, which had some New York actors from Sopranos and people you probably would know. Like Vinny Pastore and Nick Sandow, who's now in Orange is the New Black. And then I did another film called Trip to Sane, which was a science fiction screenplay, and then film. But my real love is the art of writing itself. So as I took a break from the filmmaking and I wrote my first novel. And one of my passions is music, especially rock music. So I wrote this one called Milky Way Marmalade, which is a humorous science fiction book where rock and roll saves the universe from an anti-music fascist. It's a lot of fun. It was compared to Douglas Adams, and that was the biggest compliment I ever had because he was my hero. Then I went on. I wanted to try something different, so I wrote a series of middle grade books called The Adventures of Rupert Starbright, and I'm up to my third book. And these have gotten really good reviews. People have loved them. Kids have loved them. And but the reason I'm here is marketing of books. For me, I've always found that the hardest part. because I love the writing part of it. That comes naturally. I'm passionate about it, but I get a little lazy, or I get a little lost sometimes with how to actually market these books, because I think they should be doing better than they have been. I'm not a top-selling author. I'm not a New York Times bestseller yet, but I think maybe with your help, you could guide me and give me some advice.
Yeah, well, the whole thing about marketing, and especially, I would say books, a good way to go now. You've probably seen it. A lot of people doing self-publishing, and I see from your books you're not self-published. Right. So obviously there's a lot of cost involved in doing that, and I'm sure you've got professional artists doing the cover work, but the space where people are most working now is in self-publishing. And to be honest, some are good, some are bad, and no doubt you've probably seen some of those in your writing career. But I think the easiest way to get traction on your type of book is on social media. It is, for the most part, it's free, but also by teasing people out and telling them a little bit about the book, a little bit of stories, and maybe even setting up a group, a Facebook group where you can, so you've got Trip to Sane there as maybe one of the is a book. Sorry, that was a movie. But Milky Way Marmalade, you may have a Facebook group for Milky Way Marmalade, and you can try and draw people in who are interested in that genre. And maybe by giving, I think, direct access to the author, that in itself is a big plus. People feel that they're talking directly to the author, and there are things that you could do to try and encourage that interaction. And what will happen is the group will start. They'll start dissecting the books, different characters, find out a little bit more about maybe the backstory in some of the characters, and they will start interacting with each other. So once you start building that group, and then when you say, well, okay, I've now got this new book, or I'm thinking about this new character in the genre, they can actually feed back to you and say, yeah, that's a great character, or it'd be great to have a bunch of characters that would make sense in your storyline. Now, as you said, small businesses, you're passionate about the activity of writing, and the hard work, if you like, is actually promoting that book. So I think looking at some of the books that you've done also, you've got great intro, from various high-profile people. So that's certainly good. I think.
Oh yeah. On the Milky Way Marmalade, I do.
Yeah.
Have one of the top rock DJs in New York, if not the top.
Yeah.
Dashow wrote the forward for Milky Way Marmalade. But if I could get onto the social media, I do have a question. One of the problems I see, especially with Facebook, is there are two things. One is noise. If you're constantly bombarding people with your books, they tend to just sort of zoom right by them, zip right by it, because they're just tired of seeing it. Also, you're speaking to the same locked-in audience for the most part.
Yep.
A lot of them are friends or people you know. How do you find a balance between noise and the proper amount of pushing the book on social media?
Yeah, noise will always be an issue, just by the social media's very nature, and the way to sort of narrow that down into actionable people is interact directly with them. If you're posting every single day, people will get bored and whiz by you. From my sort of perspective in business, is very much engaging with my audience or my customers, and it's about talking to them directly and find out what they want, in my terms, about what they need in the business. What's their pain level? I think from a writer's point of view, it might be the development of maybe a new book, where you get them involved in saying to you, well, as I said, these characters, it's about bringing them together, bringing them into the fold. And if you can do that, then, as I said, they will get this interaction, and obviously get them to invite their friends. sure, you can blast lots of stuff out, but I think, as you just rightly said there, people will just whiz by it. They'll just get bored and become disengaged. So
I'm sorry.
No.
One other issue I have, especially with the Adventures of Rupert Starbright books, is they're written for middle grade, ages 8 to 13, and that age range is not really on Facebook or on social media as much. So I'm really targeting the parents. I need to sort of get the parents interested enough in the book to then introduce it to their children.
Yeah.
That makes it for me even more difficult to engage with my audience directly through social media.
Yeah, well, okay. If you're targeting the parents, which I guess if you're middle grade, as you said, there's 8 to 13-year-olds, albeit they're probably fairly up to speed on Facebook and a lot of the social media platforms. But yeah, it would be directing to the parents. So a bit of research. Let's see who if some of these sites. I mean, I can do some research for you to see if we can identify some avenues that will pique the interest of the parents. And you can do you can do silly little things. I'm talking about you can do little animated movies. I mean, you're obviously in the film industry in the past. You've got a lot of that knowledge. You could build little animated scripts or something of that ilk that would go into the Facebook Facebook ads. You can also do Facebook Dart posts. You can also use Twitter. But yeah, if you are going to target, and again, one of the things you need to do in any business is you look at who's my target audience, and then you niche it down a couple. So, your target audience is children. Your target audience is children between 8 and 13. But the niche there, the ones that drive the kids, is the parents. So the niche is really the parents, which you've clearly identified. So it's about targeting a little bit more towards them. And I think, as I said, I think we can do a bit of research for you and see what we can build up and give you that start. I mean, I talked a little bit about self-publishing there. Is that an avenue that is of interest to you, or really are you going to stick with your established publisher?
For me, now that I have an in with the publisher, I'd much rather stick with an established publisher for a few reasons. Number one, they're paying for the cost of producing the book, and also for this fantastic artwork. I mean, I have a Hugo Award-winning artist doing these covers, which are just beautiful covers.
They are,
and I don't, it doesn't cost me a dime. So I'd much rather, and also editing. See, one of the biggest problems with self-published books is there's no editing. You'll find typos, you'll find horrible sentence structure, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, if you are self-publishing, you must hire an editor. Pay the money, pay someone. You may have to pay $1,000 or more to have someone edit the book. But that's so key, because an author cannot edit his own book. That's number one. So I would prefer not to be self-published. If I had a book that I wrote and no one wanted and I had no choice, then yeah, I would self-publish it. But I would hire an editor and a cover artist. You'd have to put out some money to make it work.
Yeah, you're absolutely right from that perspective, and it gives that that professional persona. I've read a lot of self-published books, I must admit. And,
some have done quite well. Some are making a lot of money, though. Some are really doing well.
And some of them, as you said, the sentence grammar is just absolutely atrocious, and lots of mistakes. But yeah, you're right. Edit and edit and edit. You really gotta pass it around 3 or 4 times, and be honest. You're going to miss things. I mean, I said in my podcast last week. Sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, and that's pretty much the same scenario. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I just as we were talking, I mean, what about short stories? Again, would short stories maybe in a Facebook format that may link to the bigger book, a bigger story? What about that? Is that something that you think may encourage people?
That's actually not a bad idea. If I was to use the characters from the novels, mm-hmm. and then create maybe even a flash fiction, something that's like under 500 words.
Yes.
That's actually not a bad idea. And you mentioned also the animated movie idea to help promote the book.
Yeah.
I've actually contemplated doing a puppet show series.
Okay.
To help promote the books. it really aiming it towards middle grade and their sensibilities and their sense of humor. So yeah, these are all things that do take a lot of time for one, and a certain amount of money. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think short story versions of books may be posted for free on Facebook, or is actually not a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, that's just one idea that I've thought about as I've been chatting away there. But obviously, you said it's middle grade. Now you're in the US, I'm in the UK. Does it translate? Does it over to the UK?
Oh, I think the Rupert Starbright books absolutely. In fact, I've had a couple of British kids read them, and they really enjoy them. So it totally translates. And Milky Way Marmalade, the rock and roll book, certainly does, because it was influenced by old British music.
Oh, okay.
I'm a fan of British rock, especially prog. Bands like Yes, but also Pink Floyd and Rolling Stones and The Who. So the rock book, Milky Way Marmalade, absolutely. I think it has more of a British style humor, maybe.
Right.
I'm a big fan of Monty Python and Douglas Adams, of course, I'm blanking on his name, Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett, yes, the late Terry Pratchett. Yeah,
Right.
He was a fantastic writer of the Discworld series, which I must admit I read a lot myself, and he's very humorous. So if you've got humor in that book, then I can certainly relate to it, and I'm sure I'll pick it up real soon. On your obviously focusing now on writing, do you have any ideas on maybe going back to movies, or is it just going to be you're going to continue with your writing career?
Well, there's always that little hand tapping me on the shoulder, making another movie. It's very different. It's almost polar opposite. Writing a book is this private, quiet time. You're alone with your characters. Making a movie is like diving into battle. You're with your army, and you're having a great time, and it's a lot of work, and you're drained by the end of the day, but you're also invigorated. So I absolutely want to make another movie. I'm thinking about a web series.
Oh, good.
Just scale it down, keep it small. And that's also, web series are a great way to go, because it's very, very difficult now, just the way the business is, whether it's movies, books, music, to get in with the big boys, it's becoming very, very difficult. So you need to scale it down. And web series, actually Hollywood keeps an eye on web series. Because if they get a certain number of hits, all of a sudden they'll come knocking because they're interested. So I have an idea for a web series that I've been playing around with. As for the feature film, sure. I mean, I'm always thinking. But I am working on a new novel right now. I'm actually rewriting.
Oh, I think we've lost you. Oh, yep, you're back.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Did I get cut off at all? My words get cut off?
You froze there for a little moment or two. So
okay.
You said you have a new novel coming out?
Yes, I'm actually rewriting it.
All right, okay.
I finished it recently, and about 6 months ago. I put it down for a while. It's massive, so I need to scale it down. I'm actually going to make two books out of it.
Out of the one. So I guess that is one of the difficult things, is when you do get started, is at which point do you stop? Obviously, you've said you've gone too far, so you're going to be able to cut it into two books.
Well, it's funny. Everyone always points at the Harry Potter books being 900 pages, but the first book was not 900 pages, and that's the key. So you're really your first novel. Now I've had novels out, but it's the new one I'm writing is a new series, so I have to treat it. I have to sort of treat it as if it's my first. So the advice I've gotten from agents and things is about 85,000 words.
Right. Don't
go beyond 85,000 words, then it gets a bit hairy. So my first draft was 165,000 words.
Wow.
So it's a big manuscript, and it needs a lot of work. But I'm excited about it a lot. Good. I'm really excited about it. But I'm trimming it, literally breaking it in half, making two books, and restructuring the first book.
Excellent. Well, there you go, folks. You heard it here first time. Two books coming out. Hopefully, I don't know how long it takes for you to get this all together with your publisher. Is it another 6 months, another year, or
it's hard, it's almost impossible to say, because for this new one, I'm going to shop it around beyond my current publisher.
Okay.
So I hope they're not listening. I don't. It's hard to say, because it needs a lot of work. So it's going to be a few months of writing.
Sure.
and then shopping it again.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure
So
if they are listening to this show, I'm sure they'll give you a good deal now because you've told them you're going to be shopping around. On the back to the sort of the marketing side for your books. Now, you've the Milky Way Marmalade. That is that where's that aimed? Is that aimed at the youngsters?
That's aimed at an adult audience. People who love humorous science fiction. Or Douglas Adams fans. If you're a Douglas Adams or a Terry Pratchett fan, you'll definitely get into Milky Way Marmalade. If you're a classic rock head like I am, if you like crazy aliens, and it's really off the wall. It's really off the wall humor, a lot of fun. I think it's still my favorite thing I've ever written.
Good.
I can actually read it, and I'm not blowing my own horn, but I cannot read this book on public transportation because I'll laugh out loud. So people look at me like I'm crazy. So if you go to Amazon and read the reviews of it, I mean, there are rave reviews for Milky Way Marmalade. And actually also for the Rupert Starbright books, if I dare say so.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do is I'll put some links to those books in the show notes below. And you can, my audience can have a look at it. And I'll do a little bit of research for you and maybe try and get some stuff out there and get some traction for you and see if you can... I don't know how it works with Amazon. I mean, if someone buys the book from Amazon, do you get paid immediately or do you get paid in 6 months?
It actually, I get paid through the publisher.
All right.
So the publisher gets the money, then I get a royalty check.
All right.
Twice a year.
All right.
That's how that works. And then as sales go up, your Amazon ranking goes up.
Yeah.
That Amazon ranking is tricky. I still don't fully understand how it works, but it's literally I've seen my Amazon number go from like 1 million to like 30,000.
All right.
Jump that extreme from one purchase.
All right.
So I don't really quite understand how it works. So I almost ignore it.
One of these
drive you nuts.
Algorithms that just decide how you're going to rank, etc. Well, we've got some stuff there for you, Mike. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this gives a little bit of insight and of our podcast. We are, as I said, or basically me, does everything from publishing it, from recording it, to editing it. Probably very much as you did as a filmmaker, and we put it in the can and we publish every week. So part and parcel of what we're doing is speaking to small businesses like yourself and try and help them get a bit of traction. I will do some stuff for you, as I said, and we'll see how it goes. And that just for coming on the show, we'll do that for you. And folks, if you want to buy any of Mike's books, just click on the show notes below and that will take you to Amazon where you can buy those books. Mike, thank you very much for your time, sir. Have a great day. And we shall speak again because obviously we do have our other connections. So thank you very much, Mike.
You're welcome. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.